Good afternoon, this is Media Center Ukraine, Odessa. We continue our work. Now we are having with us Katja Rumyantseva, blogger and activist from Berlin, creator of the Instagram platform Katja Berlin, to raise awareness of German society about post-Soviet dictatorships and Russian aggression. Katja, hello. As far as I understand, this is your first visit to Ukraine, and I'm happy to see you here today. The floor is yours. Good afternoon. First of all, I'd like to thank you. I'm honored to be here today and to tell about political aid in Berlin and in Germany for Ukraine. I am a German Belarus activist and blogger. I am a student. I'll speak Russian. So my native language is German. I was born in Germany. My mother is German. My father is from Belarus. I became a political activist in 2022 with the start of the protests in Belarus. And then with time, I started covering more topics, and today I would like to share about the political situation in Germany with regard to Ukraine, what we have already done as activists, where we succeeded, and where still conflicts. I learned Ukrainian history at the German Institute. My tutor was a Ukrainian professor, and it is very important for me to share this information with the German students. I'm a part of the Erasmus group in Germany, and today I will speak as an activist. I focus on post-Soviet dictatorships and Russian aggression. What is the situation in Germany with regard to Ukraine? This is not an easy question, but I would like to start from positive things. So, previously in Germany, there was not enough solidarity in Germany, and media did not cover Ukraine enough in 2014. Now the situation has significantly changed. There are a lot of people who express solidarity with Ukraine. A lot of people support Ukrainian struggle against the Russian aggression. Just a few days after the start of the full-scale invasion, more than 10,000 people came to the streets of Berlin to support Ukraine. This is a significant achievement of political and media work of Ukrainian diaspora in Germany in recent years. But unfortunately, we face a lot of problems there. Actually, when it comes to the role of 10,000 people, Ukrainian organization Vicha Berlin was not invited there because it openly supported supply of weapons to Ukraine. And this is one of the major problems now, because the topic of weapons supplies to Ukraine is still disputed, and we can see polar opinions in Germany. And we can see it in Western Germany and former GDR, eastern part of Germany. Why people do not support weapons supply to Ukraine? Why do they call them pacifists? And we cannot understand why people have such opinion. This is a new peaceful movement supporting peace. Goes back to German history, because a lot of Germans are afraid of war. So, Nie wieder Krieg is the biggest mantra of Germans. No more war. And that's why Germans don't want to have anything in common with the war, with the aggression. So their territory was to be a fascist country, and they don't want to supply weapons to other countries. Most Germans suffered a lot the Cold War. They were scared of the fact that there were three nuclear superpowers, and Germany was between West and East. People were scared back then, and they are still afraid of nuclear attack. So that was fascism in their history, the Cold War, and the third aspect that in German Democratic Republic, there was the opposition of the USSR, and that was peaceful opposition. That's why they believe that the peaceful approach is the solution to fight evil. But actually, they were lucky back then. That was, and sorry, because my native language is German, as I've already mentioned. All these historical aspects are used significantly by Putin's propaganda. So they say that they like against escalation, that they support peace. And that narratives have become very strong in Germany since 2014. And we can see how Russia uses hybrid methods in its war. There is the information war, and they are interested in making population radical in other countries for them to be against their own states. So that started in 2014. There was the migration crisis in 2015. Then we faced coronavirus, and these topics were used by extremist movements, and that was financed by Russia. And we know that the D-Link party, so the left-wing party, is financed by Russia. And all these topics are now strangely mixed, uniting people who say that they allegedly support peace. And we can see new pacifism rallies in Germany. We faced that when we had rallies in Belarus. People contacted us saying that there is a dictatorship in Germany, that people are beaten in Germany, and that proved that those people lived in a different informational environment and they are detached from the real world. So that is the question, how in such society we can help Ukraine, how we can explain the situation to Germans to support Ukraine right now. So what we want to achieve, or what we do in such a situation. People like me who were born and who are brought up in different cultures and different diasporas serve as a cultural bridge. We should not only translate from one language into another, but we should translate from one cultural context into another. We cannot just have the same news as in other countries. We need to explain context to our people, to explain the situation in Ukraine and the history of Ukraine. And we use new methods. Luckily, we have free media in our country. That focus a lot on Russian aggression. And that is quite efficient. But as the new generation, we use social media to explain the situation to young people, because they can see some photos of people in bars or at some restaurants, and they see the next story about bombardment in Dnipro or about how Lisa was killed in Ukraine. And we use this to show that the war is in Europe and that they should do something about it. Of course, on one hand, we should show those terrible things happening in Ukraine, but on the other hand, we should show that there is not only war in Ukraine, that there is beautiful culture in Ukraine. This is my first visit to Ukraine, and I've already seen so many positive things, so many good things that I'm looking forward to share with my friends and followers in Instagram. And it is very important to show that people work here in Ukraine, that they fight not only because they want, but just to survive this genocide. That's why I created an Instagram account in 2020 to tell about the situation in Belarus first to my friends. My daddy is from Belarus, and I have two citizenships. That for the first time I participated in elections, and I was shocked because during Ukrainian Maidan I was only 12 years old. And then I first understood what is post-Soviet aggression, what is Russia, and what dictatorship regimes do. I made a video with our Chancellor Angela Merkel, published this on Instagram, and I asked Merkel why she didn't do anything. And that video became viral. And a lot of people contacted me saying that they knew nothing about Belarus. That's why I decided explaining what was happening in Belarus. I told about Rolis, about how my friends there were arrested, how people were beaten there. Then there were protests in Kazakhstan, and finally the full-scale invasion of Ukraine that started on the 24th of February last year. Today I use different formats in Instagram. I have posts sharing information about collecting money to support frontline of Ukraine. I share news, and I also post about Rolis that where I participate. And you can see my followers on Instagram. These are mainly people of 18 to 35-year-old. All of them are from Germany. Not all of them are Germans, but they live in Germany. And I have almost 5,000 followers, and they are really interested in the situation in Ukraine. People like to say that activism cannot do anything, but I can say that over the last year, we have managed to collect more than 22,000 euro to support the front line of Ukraine. And we have friends, we have parents who fight there. And every time we tell our personal story. And we managed to raise money for some targeted support. We have bought Starlinks, vehicles, drones. We bought a lot of things for Bakhmut, for Storm or Thunder Battalion. And we show that these are not only Ukrainians and Ukrainian diaspora, but also we get support from Germans there. And we also participate in a great number of rallies. You can now see some of the photos. And it is very important for us to go on those rallies, for us to be visible, for us to be heard. It is very important that it is not just a war somewhere. And there is a Ukrainian organization, which Berlin created by Ukrainian experts. And they organized huge rallies, huge actions, uniting thousands of people. And this is very important for us to speak different languages, like Ukrainian, German, and It is very important to support people who flee the war, who are in Germany now. And also we need to raise awareness of people there. And sometimes I meet people saying, "Oh, I know you from that trolley, from that street." That's why it is very important to be public, to remind all the time about what is happening in Ukraine. And I have quite an extensive experience of of Belarus protests. So we had different workshops, we had events in bars, churches, so we have different formats. And every time we target our audience to better explain what is happening and to establish cultural bridges. After a full-scale invasion, we've got new priorities because the main priority now is to stop the war. And can we do in Germany? We can raise awareness, and I'm invited to different TV channels like CDF and other, which are private TV channels where I participated in discussions about how to counteract dictatorship, how we can support Ukraine. We discuss pacifism and about the Western support. This is a very important part of my activity. Every time I try to explain that public space is people's space as well. We have online and offline events. Jung Welt is one of the left-wing newspapers in Berlin. Unfortunately, they super pro-Russians, and the first poster with a finger says that we cannot be against Russia because that would be bad for Russia. And you can see, and there are other photos, how we deal with the sports, with these posters. And every time we say that Berlin is also the city of Ukrainians, that they should be comfortable there, even when it comes to communication. So it is important for people to understand that this is not okay just to tolerate such propaganda, like a part of new reality. Timothy Snyder told about that in his book on tyranny, when he compared different tyrannies and dictatorships. And he says that in fascist Germany, no one made people to become anti-Semites. And this is how they created a new trend in the society, and leading to what we know happened. That's why we cannot tolerate Russian propaganda. There should be no drop of Russian propaganda in our society, because this can become the part of our new normal, our new reality. That's why information struggle is very important, and people send us photos how they get rid of that posters or stickers. Now in Berlin we can see new graffiti. Nicht unser Krieg, not our war. We don't know what is the source of these graffitis, because it's look really professional, as someone has paid for that. But we unfortunately don't know details. This graffiti can be found all over Berlin, but we can see that people cross out that near, that no. So this is our war. And there is new series where we tell about this topic. We can share the stories of people crossing that nicht. Know that this is also our war, that that we're solidar with this. The situation is very difficult, but there is a huge Ukrainian diaspora in Germany that has done a lot and continues to do a lot. They involve other diasporas from Bosnia, from Syria, and Belarus diaspora as well. And I'd like to conclude saying that I texted to my Syrian friend about being in Ukraine, and he asked me to tell you that they support you a lot, that they sympathize with your situation. And all of us know that Ukraine will win and that we fully support you. Thank you very much. Glory to Ukraine, glory to heroes. Katja, thank you very much for what you do for us, for Ukraine. This is all. For now, we've had with us Katja Rumyantseva, the creator of the Instagram platform Katja Berlin. Our next briefing will be at 3 p.m., so stay tuned.